This is how you heal. Full audiobook summary. Introduction. The beginning of healing. There comes a moment in every person's life when silence becomes too loud to ignore. It is in that moment you realize that something deep within you is aching, not just for relief, but for renewal. Brianna Wiest's This Is How You Heal is a journey into that sacred moment. It is not merely a book about recovery from pain, it is a guide to becoming whole again. Through poetic prose, gentle wisdom, and piercing truth, Brianna teaches us that healing is not a destination, but a lifelong process of coming home to ourselves. The journey begins not with perfection, but with honesty, the courage to see what's been broken, the bravery to sit with discomfort, and the faith to believe that light will eventually return. This voiceover summary will take you through that journey, from understanding who Brianna Wiest is, to discovering the philosophy behind her words, and finally, walking through each chapter's truth, one healing at a time. About the author, Brianna Wiest. Brianna Wiest is a writer, philosopher, and poetic thinker who has touched millions through her work. Her writing explores self-awareness, emotional intelligence, shadow work, and spiritual growth. Before This Is How You Heal, Brianna became widely known for her book, 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think, and The Mountain Is You, both of which focus on emotional transformation and self-sabotage. Wiest's background isn't academic psychology, it's lived experience. Her wisdom comes from navigating her own seasons of pain, introspection, and transformation. She writes not as a distant expert, but as someone who has walked through the fire and learned to make peace with the ashes. Her voice is intimate, vulnerable, and raw, almost like a friend sitting beside you in your darkest hour, whispering truth when you've forgotten your strength. And in This Is How You Heal, she invites us to join her in one of the most sacred human journeys, learning how to truly heal. The purpose of the book, This Is How You Heal, was born from the understanding that pain is not a punishment, it's an invitation. Every heartbreak, every loss, every trauma is a doorway through which we can step into deeper wisdom. Brianna teaches that healing doesn't mean forgetting what hurt us. It means learning to live with it, to integrate the wound until it becomes part of our strength. Healing is about learning that we are not our pain. It's about reclaiming power from the stories we once believed about ourselves. The purpose of this book is to help you remember that you were never broken. You were becoming, and everything that has happened to you was preparing you to awaken to your truest, most powerful self. Part 1. The Foundations of Healing. Chapter 1. The Decision to Heal. Healing begins with a decision, not a grand announcement, but a quiet agreement between your heart and your soul that says, I'm ready to feel again. Brianna explains that healing starts when you stop running. For years, we distract ourselves with work, relationships, or perfectionism, trying to escape the discomfort within. But true healing happens when we turn inward and face what we've been avoiding. She writes, Healing is not becoming the person you were before. It's becoming someone new who can exist with what happened. This decision is powerful. It's not about erasing pain, but reclaiming control. When you choose to heal, you take responsibility for your peace. You stop waiting for others to fix you. You begin to realize that the power to transform your life has always been inside you. Chapter 2. The Myth of Instant Healing. One of Brianna's most beautiful truths is this: healing takes time. We live in a world obsessed with instant results. But emotional recovery doesn't follow deadlines. You cannot rush what was meant to unfold slowly. She describes healing as a spiral, not a straight line. You will revisit old wounds, but each time with more wisdom and less pain. Some days, you'll feel free. Other days, you'll fall back into sadness. Both are part of progress. Healing, Brianna reminds us, is cyclical. You'll think you've moved on, then find yourself triggered again, not because you've failed, but because your heart is giving you another chance to understand the wound more deeply. Patience is the secret medicine of transformation. Chapter 3. Grieving what was lost. You cannot heal what you haven't grieved. Grief is not just about death. It's about lost dreams, lost versions of yourself, and relationships that never became what you hoped for. Brianna teaches that grief is sacred. It's the emotional bridge between who you were and who you're becoming. When you suppress grief, you remain emotionally stuck in the past. But when you allow yourself to weep, scream, write, pray, you create space for new life. The paradox of grief is that it feels like death but leads to rebirth. You shed what no longer serves you so that something more beautiful can rise. Chapter 4. Accepting reality. One of the hardest steps in healing is acceptance. It's the surrender that says, this happened, it hurt, and I can't change it. Acceptance doesn't mean approval. It means freedom. As long as you resist what is, you remain chained to the pain. But when you accept it, the grip of the past loosens. Brianna says, you cannot move forward if you keep rewriting the past in your mind. Acceptance opens the door to peace, not because everything is okay, but because you finally stop fighting what you cannot control. Chapter 5. The Inner Child. Healing often means revisiting the younger version of yourself, the one who learned fear, shame, or unworthiness. Brianna beautifully explains that every adult pain is often rooted in a childhood wound. The inner child doesn't need to be fixed. They need to be seen, heard, and loved. When you speak kindly to your inner child, you rewrite your emotional history. You give that small, scared version of you what they always needed: safety, affection, and reassurance. Healing your inner child is how you rewrite your subconscious beliefs. It's how you stop repeating cycles of self-sabotage and start living in alignment with truth. Part 2. The Process of Healing. Chapter 6. Self-compassion, the heart of recovery. At the center of healing lies compassion. You cannot bully yourself into wholeness. You cannot shame yourself into love. Brianna reminds us that self-compassion is not weakness. It's the foundation of strength. It's the gentle voice that says, you're trying your best. When you treat yourself with kindness, you begin to heal faster because love softens the resistance inside. Forgive yourself for what you didn't know then. You were surviving. Now you are learning to live. Chapter 7. The Power of Awareness. Awareness is light. It's what exposes the lies we've believed about who we are. When you become aware, you start to see patterns. Why you attract certain relationships, why you react emotionally, why you fear love. Brianna teaches that awareness is the first step to change. You can't transform what you refuse to see. When you notice your emotions without judgment, you disarm them. Awareness turns chaos into clarity. It shifts you from being a victim of your thoughts to being the observer of your experience. Chapter 8. Letting go to heal. You must let go. Not because what happened didn't matter, but because you deserve peace. Letting go is not forgetting. It's accepting that the past no longer holds the power to define your future. Brianna describes letting go as the art of release. It means you no longer seek closure from others. You give it to yourself. You stop asking why and start saying thank you. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for the growth. Thank you for showing me who I am. Letting go is how you create space for new beginnings. Chapter 9. The rebuilding stage. After release comes reconstruction. This is where you rebuild your life from a new level of consciousness. You start making choices not out of fear, but out of love. You begin setting boundaries, nurturing your body, choosing relationships that mirror your growth. Brianna calls this stage becoming new. It's when you realize healing isn't just about recovery. It's about recreation. You start living intentionally, designing a life aligned with peace. Part 3. Healing through love and connection. Chapter 10. Learning to receive love. Healing is not complete until you learn to receive love again. Brianna writes that when we've been deeply hurt, we often build emotional walls to protect ourselves. But those same walls that keep pain out also keep love away. When you're used to chaos, peace feels foreign. When you're used to rejection, affection feels suspicious. The process of healing includes learning to trust again, not blindly but courageously. Brianna teaches that receiving love begins with allowing yourself to be seen. Not the perfect version of you, not the one who pretends to have it all together, but the real you, the vulnerable, unguarded self who still trembles sometimes. To receive love, you must first believe you are worthy of it. You must replace the inner voice that says, "I'm too much," or "I'm not enough," with a new truth. I am lovable just as I am. Healing invites you to open your heart again, even if it still has scars. Chapter 11. Forgiveness, the highest form of release. Forgiveness is one of the deepest themes in This Is How You Heal. Brianna reminds us that forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened. It's about freeing yourself from what still binds you. Holding on to resentment is like holding a burning coal and expecting the other person to feel the pain. The truth is, it burns you. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still walk away. You can release the burden of anger without ever allowing that person back into your life. Forgiveness is for your peace, not their comfort. It's the choice to say, "I no longer carry this weight." Sometimes, the hardest forgiveness is toward yourself for the times you stayed too long, for the things you tolerated, for not knowing better. But healing asks you to be kind to your past self because they were surviving with the tools they had. Chapter 12. Healing in relationships. Brianna explains that relationships are often mirrors. They show us what still needs to be healed. The way you react to love, to criticism, to silence, often reveals old wounds asking for attention. Healthy love does not trigger your trauma. It holds it gently. It does not demand perfection. It celebrates progress. Healing in relationships is not about finding someone to complete you. It's about becoming whole so that you can meet others from fullness, not emptiness. When you heal, your relationships evolve. You stop chasing validation and start choosing compatibility. You stop settling for attention and start seeking connection. The more you know your worth, the less you will tolerate half-love. Chapter 13. Boundaries, the language of self-respect. One of the most empowering truths Brianna teaches is that boundaries are not walls. They are doors that open only for what nourishes you. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it's self-honoring. It's how you communicate what is and isn't acceptable in your life. Many people fear setting boundaries because they associate them with conflict or rejection. But in reality, boundaries create healthier connections. They teach others how to love you correctly. You cannot heal if you keep allowing the same energy that broke you to return. Boundaries protect your peace. They are not about controlling others. They're about taking responsibility for your emotional safety. A healed person doesn't say yes to everything. They say yes to what aligns with their soul. Chapter 14. The Courage to Be Alone. Brianna emphasizes that solitude is not loneliness. It is sacred space. It's where you hear your soul whisper truths that the world drowns out. Many fear being alone because silence confronts us with ourselves, but in solitude, you rediscover your inner voice, the one that knows what you truly want and need. Healing requires time alone. It's where integration happens. It's where your soul rebuilds its strength after years of depletion. Brianna says that being alone teaches you self-sufficiency, that your happiness doesn't depend on another person's presence, but on your own alignment with truth. Aloneness is where you remember who you are when no one is watching. Part 4. Becoming Whole Again. Chapter 15. Integration, Turning Pain into Wisdom. At this stage, healing becomes less about fixing and more about integrating. Integration means accepting that your pain is now part of your story, not the definition of it, but a chapter that shaped you. Brianna explains that integration is where wisdom is born. You begin to see your past not as a curse, but as a classroom. Every betrayal taught you boundaries. Every heartbreak taught you resilience. Every failure taught you humility. Integration turns suffering into strength. You no longer need to run from your pain because you've learned how to use it. You begin to help others who are where you once were. And that's how healing multiplies. Chapter 16. Finding Purpose After Pain. Once healing becomes part of your identity, you naturally start seeking purpose. Brianna believes that purpose is not something you chase. It's something you awaken to. It's the realization that your story can serve others. Your purpose might be to write, to parent, to teach, to lead, or simply to live with kindness. Purpose is what gives meaning to pain. It transforms your scars into testimonies. Brianna beautifully writes, "Your pain was never meaningless. It was a path. It was a calling for you to rise." When you turn your pain into purpose, you no longer resent your past. You respect it. It becomes sacred fuel for your future. Chapter 17. Returning to yourself. In the later chapters, Brianna speaks of coming home, not to a physical place, but to yourself. Healing ultimately brings you back to who you were before the world told you who to be. You begin to trust your intuition again. You speak your truth without fear. You choose peace over chaos. You no longer live for approval. You live for authenticity. Returning to yourself means reclaiming your wholeness. It's realizing that nothing outside of you holds your fulfillment because it was never lost, only forgotten. Chapter 18. The Spiritual Dimension of Healing. Beyond the emotional and psychological layers, Brianna touches on the spiritual essence of healing. She believes that true healing is a spiritual awakening, a recognition that you are more than your thoughts, your trauma, or your body. You are consciousness experiencing growth through contrast. Your pain is the portal to awakening. Your healing is the remembrance of your divinity. This perspective shifts the entire process. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this teaching me?" Healing becomes less about changing life and more about expanding within it. Chapter 19. Living in Alignment. When you heal, you begin to live in alignment with truth. Alignment means your thoughts, actions, and emotions all flow in the same direction toward peace. You stop betraying yourself to keep others comfortable. You stop chasing people who are not choosing you. You stop pretending to be okay when you're not. Alignment is where integrity meets intuition. It's when you finally stop fighting life and start flowing with it. In this place, your decisions are no longer rooted in fear, but in faith. You realize that your peace is your greatest success. Chapter 20. Becoming the Healer. One of the most profound lessons in This Is How You Heal is that healed people heal others. When you rise from your own pain, you become a lighthouse for those still in the storm. Brianna encourages readers to share their wisdom, to guide others with gentleness, and to remind them that healing is possible. You don't need to be perfect to inspire. You just need to be real. Your story can be the medicine someone else needs. Healing is not selfish. It's sacred service. As you mend, you become a vessel of light, proving that love is stronger than pain. Part 5. The New You. Chapter 21. The Gift of the Present Moment. The final phase of healing is presence. It's learning to live fully, not trapped in the past, not anxious about the future, but grounded in the now. The present moment is where peace lives. It's where joy is born. It's where your power resides. Brianna writes, "The greatest act of healing is to choose this moment again and again. Because in the now, there is no shame, no fear, only awareness. When you live presently, you stop rehearsing your pain and start creating your peace." Chapter 22. Redefining Happiness. Healing changes your definition of happiness. It's no longer about constant excitement or external validation. It's about inner calm, self-respect, and gratitude for simple things: breath, sunlight, quiet mornings. You begin to find joy in ordinary life. You learn that happiness is not something you chase, but something you cultivate within. As Brianna says, happiness is not what happens when everything is right. It's what happens when you are right within yourself. Chapter 23. The Peace That Comes After. There's a peace that only healed hearts know. It's not loud or dramatic. It's quiet, steady, unshakable. It's the peace of knowing you've faced the worst and found yourself still standing. Healing doesn't mean you'll never hurt again. It means you now know how to hold pain with grace. You no longer collapse when life tests you. You breathe, you ground, you trust. The peace after healing is sacred. It's the sound of your soul exhaling. Chapter 24. The Circle of Healing. Brianna ends her book by reminding us that healing is not a linear finish line. It's a continuous circle. You will always be growing, expanding, rediscovering new layers of yourself. There will be new pains, but you will face them differently, with awareness, patience, and love. You now know how to self-soothe, how to forgive, how to rise again. Healing becomes a way of life. You become both student and teacher, wounded and whole, human and divine. This is the beauty of the healing journey. It never truly ends because growth never stops. Final reflection. This is how you heal. Healing is not forgetting. It's remembering your power. It's realizing that every pain was preparing you for purpose. Brianna Wiest's message is timeless. Your healing is not proof of weakness, but of your extraordinary strength to transform. You are not broken. You are breaking open into awareness, into compassion, into truth. This is how you heal. By choosing to feel, by learning to let go, by forgiving, by rebuilding, by loving again, by returning to yourself. And one day, without even realizing it, you will wake up and feel light again. You'll smile without forcing it. You'll breathe without heaviness. You'll look back not with pain, but with gratitude. Because you will finally understand that everything you went through was not to destroy you, but to awaken you. This is how you heal. And this is how you rise.